Hi, this is Sherry at the Intentional Home Podcast, where I share tips and resources to help you live with intention and purpose. This is episode number 27, and today I want to begin a little series here on the podcast about habits. Now, I love the summer months, and I love the extra freedom that we have with our time and our schedules. We have time to do things that we don't get to do during the regular school year. And for me anyway, I have a real tendency to go off track a little bit, to start slacking in some of those important habits that keep my life and my home running smoothly. So for the next several weeks, I'm going to be addressing some of these habits, some of these areas in my own life that I want to work on getting back in order. Things like having a daily quiet time, drinking enough water, fixing healthy meals for my family, and keeping the house clean, and then also making sure that I'm taking time to take care of myself. So these are all important areas. They're not the only habits, obviously, that we can work on, but I just chose some that I personally want to work on, and we're just going to talk about each of these over the next several weeks and look at some ways that we can work on these habits and get them going again in our lives. So today I want to look at the first one, and I want to look at having a daily quiet time. Now, before we get into this episode too far, I want to stop and share a word of wisdom. One thing that I've learned through the years is that my quiet time changes during different seasons of my life. When I went through a season where I had a lot of little ones and I was getting up with babies during the night, it was all I could do to sneak in some quiet time whenever I could. And during that season, my quiet time was often while I was nursing, because a lot of times that was the only time I could sit down and rest. And so I used that time to read, to pray, and just to have some quiet time with God. Then as my kids got older, I found that my quiet time, it worked the best for me to have it right after dinner. After the kitchen was all cleaned up, it was the perfect time for me, and that's just what worked for me during that season. But recently, I actually have been enjoying having my quiet time right after my husband leaves for work in the morning, before the kids get up. And so I just want to encourage you, before we get into talking about having a quiet time, please understand that there is no one right way or right time to have your quiet time. The important thing is that you are taking some time during the day to spend with God, to spend in prayer, to spend in Bible reading or listening to the Bible. It's important. And we may not feel like we have time, but there are things that we can do, and I'm going to talk about it. There's some easy ways that you can sneak in that quiet time, sneak in some Bible reading without feeling like you're stressed out. And we know we need it. We know it's a good thing, and yet a lot of times it's one of those things that we let slip. So we're going to take a look at quiet time. But I did want to just note that understand that seasons of life change, and our quiet times are going to change as well. So just keep that in mind as we go through some of these ideas that I want to share with you today. So I want to look at, we've talked about seasons and how different seasons of our life allow for less time and more time, just depends on what our life is like at the moment. So I want to look at first, if you are in a very busy, tiring season of your life and you just feel like you have no time for a quiet time, one of the things that you can do is sign up for one of my quiet time email series. It's just a really simple email that you'll get every day with a passage of scripture to read. And you simply just read through the passage, meditate on what God's telling you, and spend some time in prayer. So this would be a really easy thing if you just don't have time to sit down or you're just busy. You can access that email on your phone or wherever you are at, Whether you're, a young mom with little babies that you're nursing, sit down while you're nursing and open your phone, pull up that email and just read it and spend some time praying. So that is one option. I will put links in the show notes for these different resources that I'm going to share. So the Quiet Time email series is one thing that you can do. Another option is to listen to an audio Bible. There are lots and lots of free options online, whether you go on the web or there are lots of apps that you can download, like the Bible app. Lots of different ones that you can download and actually listen to Bible passages and being read aloud to you. So that is one option. If you even can't find time to sit down and read, or you're just too stressed at the moment, find one of those audio Bibles that you can plug in and turn on and just listen to, maybe 5 to 15 minutes every day. Listen to it while you're in the car, or listen to it while you're doing dishes or folding laundry. Lots of different options that you can use to sneak in some of that Bible time each day. So those are some ideas if you're in a really, really busy season of your life, that you can get some of that quiet time in not too hard of a way. Just some couple easy ideas that you can use. The next option I want to look at is maybe you're in a season where you have a little bit more time. You're not quite as busy. And when I have more time to study, I sometimes like to pick up the book of the Bible to read through. I choose a short passage to read. I have a journal that I like to use, and I'll link these in the notes as well. But I have a journal where I just write down the passage that I'm reading, and maybe I jot down some notes of things that I want to apply to my life. Maybe I'll write out a prayer. You can really make this time, make it whatever you want it to be and what is most meaningful and helpful to you. But if you are in a time where you have a little more time, then go ahead and dig a little deeper. Go ahead and do a little more studying and writing and journaling, and just enjoy being able to have more time to do that. The next option is if you have even more time. So you've got a little more time to study. Maybe you have, a half an hour that you can set aside every day, or an hour, and you want to dig a little bit deeper. I've got some more resources that you can use, some Bible study journals, my In the Word Bible study series that you can use, my intentional quiet time journals. These are just some different journals that you can use as you read through the Bible and as you study. My In the Word book series is what I'm actually using right now. And I love it because it gives me the chapter in the Bible to read each day, and then it has places for me to copy down a verse that sticks out to me from that chapter, has a place where I can write down some application, how I can apply this to my life, a place to write down kind of a summary of what happened in that chapter, and then a place for me to write down a prayer. So I have been using that for the past 6 months or so. Maybe it's been longer. And I've been really enjoying that. So if you want, you can check out that In the Word book series as well, if you want to give that one a try. Also, on my website, I'm going to link in the show notes, but I have a page kind of dedicated to Bible study and quiet time. And on that page, there are some links to some different Bible reading plans that you can look at. If you're not sure, maybe you want to read through the Bible in a year, or there's reading plans that will read through in 2 years or 3 years. So you can take a look at those and see if that will give you some guidelines of how you can read through the Bible in a more systematic way, if that's what you want to do. And like I said, quiet times are going to change during the different seasons of your life. Sometimes they're going to be more structured and a little more intentional maybe in what you're doing. Sometimes they're just going to be a matter of opening up an audio Bible app and just playing something from the Psalms or something from the Gospels. It's not going to be planned ahead of time necessarily, and you may not have the time or the brain power maybe to be more intentional in that. But don't feel guilty about that. Just use the time that you have wisely and get that quiet time in one way or another. And don't be afraid to try something different. Don't be afraid if you need to change it up a little bit. Maybe you need to do it, at lunchtime, or maybe while the kids are taking their naps, or whatever works for you. That is the best way. So don't be stuck in thinking that you have to do it a certain time of day or a certain number of chapters every day that you have to read. Give yourself some grace and just take an honest look at the season of life that you're in, and then try to figure out a way with some of these ideas that I've shared today. Figure out some ways that you can get in that quiet time that you desperately need, that time that you can get into God's Word and really study it, or just listen to it, spend some time praying, and allow God to renew you and to refresh you and to equip you for the day that you have, to do the jobs that He has called you to do. So I hope that this has encouraged you I know we're talking about habits, and so a daily quiet time is a habit. It's something that we need to get into the habit of doing, so that it's not so much of that we don't really have to think about it. We just do it each day. And so I hope that encourages you to really look at the season of life that you're in, choose a plan that works for you, and then just do it. So next week, we're going to be looking at another area of habits, and that is drinking more water and other healthy beverages each day. So we're going to look at some tips and some ideas of how you can better keep track of your water intake, and maybe give you some ideas of some other healthy beverages that you can drink that are good for you and will help give you that daily boost of liquids that your body needs. So we're going to look at that next week, and I have some more good podcasts coming. So be sure and tune in next time to listen to those. So I want to thank you again for joining me here at the Intentional Home Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Just search for Intentional Home Podcast in iTunes or your favorite podcast player and subscribe. I would also love it if you could leave me a review in iTunes. This just helps more people find our podcast and enjoy it. Thank you again for joining me, and if you would like to see more podcast episodes or find all the show notes, you can find those on my website at sherrygraham.com/podcast. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.